Hey all, Amber here. I told you that I would likely do this man next, and lo and behold, I am. This is Vincent Remington, twin brother to last week's character, Holly. There will be a link to her up in the card and in the description below. So, let's jump right into it. Vincent was the one that was meant to take the head position, the position that Holly got, and I mentioned this in her video. But he didn't want it. It was immediate, too. By the time he and Holly were 10, he already knew he did not want that position. He didn't envy his father. His parents were a little worried, as the position should stay in the Remington name. But it came to light that Holly wanted it. Their father was entirely for it, and did in fact start to prepare for the position. Vincent, meanwhile, was cool to just do whatever. His parents didn't care as long as he wasn't getting into trouble. When they were around 15 or 16, Vincent went out on his own. His family would always be in the large home that they had been in forever, he was sure. He knew, if need be, that he could return without issue, and that his parents supported him finding his own path. So, he set out on his own. He traveled all over Wales before deciding to head out farther. And even farther. He realized, at some point, that he'd ended up adopting a rather nomadic lifestyle. It worked for him, though, so it wasn't something he was going to complain about. After a few years of wandering, he made his way to Egypt and found himself grateful that he had a definite skill with languages. However, it did take him some time to pick up the language of the region. One day, he made his way to Alexandria, and one night later on, he met a woman who was running into trouble. He helped her out and was invited to join her for a late dinner as a thank you. Vincent, of course, did not refuse. Why would he? She was a beautiful lady offering food as a thank you for helping. Who would refuse that, right? Anyway, he didn't refuse and made the trek to her home with her. On the way, they chat, and names, oddly enough, did not come up. However, once they arrived to where she called home, he realized how important the woman he helped was. She was Cleopatra, the pharaoh of Egypt, and she was treating him to a good bite to eat. Vincent was most definitely not going to regret or reject such an offer. After some time, the pair ended up close, extremely close. They did end up wed. Cleo ended up pregnant, gave birth to a daughter, and life was good. For years, Vincent lived in Alexandria with the family that he now had. Things were good, extremely good, until Cleo's death. No one knew what the cause was, why it happened, how it ended up, how she died. Main thing that Vincent and Nakia knew, though, Nakia is their daughter's name. The main thing that they knew was that she was gone. The grief caused Vincent to turn nomadic again. Nakia was actually okay with it. She wanted him to be happy, and if getting away from there for a bit would help, then so be it. She would miss him, and she most certainly did miss him after he left, but knew he was doing what he wanted and what she was sure he needed. Vincent wasn't worried for his daughter either, as she was old enough to take care of herself. I'll probably touch more on that if or when I do Nakia's video. Today, Vincent is the topic, though. Anyway, Vincent was hit hard by Cleopatra's death and ended up being nomadic for quite a while. This nomadic burst lasted years, decades, hell, generations. During this time, though, he became very difficult to contact. Holly did eventually find him in Greece, telling him that their parents had died, and she needed his help to get the council under control. Vincent was absolutely gutted to learn that he hadn't been able to say goodbye, and that Holly hadn't been able to find him easily. Never mind how horrible he felt about the fact that he'd been so uncontactable for so long. He, of course, did agree to help and followed his sister home. Bright and early the next day, they headed to the council, where Vincent claimed his birthright as the head. No one fought him, everyone seemed to approve, and shot Holly dirty looks. The twins, however, knew that this would be temporary. Vincent had every intention of handing the position to his sister, but he wasn't sure exactly when yet. It took about a month of him being in that position, and Holly, his sister, doing all of the paperwork and the organization and all of that, before the chance arose. When it did, it was during a meeting. That meeting was about getting everything organized, making sure everything that needed to be dealt with was. It was the perfect time, Vincent thought. And he thought that maybe it would be all right if he appointed his sister. However, it did not go well at all. Several people were injured in the ensuing attack on the blonde woman, which she defended well. Vincent just stood back and let his sister prove herself. He realized that if he had to step in, it would not help Holly's case. So he had to, begrudgingly, step back and let Holly defend herself. In the end, they stepped down. Vincent was able to give the ring, the same ring that Holly is still wearing, that denoted the head of the council, to his sister, and he went on his way again. This time, he managed to largely stay in contact. He did not want to find out about another death the way he did regarding his parents. He stayed in close contact with his sister and rarely spoke with his daughter. He didn't even know where to look for her. Sometime later, though, said daughter found him. He was in Japan enjoying some sushi, and she told him that a while ago, Holly had gone missing. She also followed up with how Holly's last known location was in Poland. With what was going on in the world at the time, Vincent then became very concerned since he had just heard about the invasion of said country. Before he could panic, though, Nakia told him that they did find her. He just needed to help to plan to save her. Vincent said fuck that, grabbed his daughter, dressed up as a soldier, and took his daughter in as a prisoner. The intention? He wanted to infiltrate and save his sister. He did succeed. He managed to save both his sister and his daughter before she was put to death as well, but was not quick enough to save his sister's love. Sometime after this, he ended up connecting on both an emotional and physical level with a vampire, before they both realized that was extremely bad for his health. And by that, I mean if they wanted to maintain that, she would kill him. Beyond that, okay, this is in no particular order. He fell in love with a lesbian and fathered a child with her, helped stop a terror in Europe, continued to be nomadic, took up archaeology, became a teacher and a professor, saved twin necromancers, saved another necromancer, fell in love with that one, watched that one die, fell in love with that terror from Europe mentioned earlier, and fathered twin girls with her. Also, the position of God in this world, it rotates. As in, same with the position of the devil. As in, somebody always has to fill that role, but when the one that is there feels they've had enough and they would like to have a more relaxed afterlife, they can pass it on to somebody who is fitting. The one who is currently in that seat, he met and was older than earlier in life. So he can legit say he's older than God, which he gets a chuckle out of. However, there is a lot more. I can go into detail about any of that if anybody wants. If there's interest, let me know. I can draw a piece. For instance, if it was something regarding that terror in Europe I mentioned, I can do a piece involving the two of them for that time and do this with it, just as the story and the information pertaining to that. There is a lot of information that I have for Vincent, so I am more than willing to expand upon it if anybody is interested. His story is very in-depth, and there's, well, a lot to it, obviously. Anyway, I'm sure I've rambled on long enough. My timer is saying about 11 minutes. After I edit it, it'll probably be closer to 10, which isn't too bad, so I'll leave it there and let you guys go do your own thing instead of listening to me ramble on about my character. If you have any questions, please just ask. I will answer anything. And if there are enough questions, I might do a second video regarding him. I have no qualms with that. Hell, I'll do that with almost anybody. Anybody that I own. My characters, that is. Anyway, thank you so much for stopping by to watch and or listen. I hope you found it at least interesting about one of my characters. I know he does not look as old as he should. He should look in his 40s, not as young as he does. Oops. I blame my inexperience with drawing aged characters. So, but you know what? I'll touch on that later. Whatever. I want his coat. I really like the coat I gave him. Anyway, I'll leave it there. This is Amber out. See ya.